I'll tell you what, Bills fans are barking right now because they're upset, B-Mac. I mean, you can't have a game where you beat the Chiefs and then you come back here and go to Miami and have a stinker like this. This is unacceptable for Buffalo Bills football.
It is, but for the NFL, this is right on course. This is why the NFL is such a unique game to watch, because when you think you know, you do not know. They were a clear-cut favorite coming into this ball game, to Hakeem's point, because of what they did last week, led by one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. Going against a team that just fired their GM a few weeks ago. We're hearing the head coach potentially could be fired. We don't know what's going to happen with their star quarterback, but the Dolphins came in, did not listen to any of the elevator music that was going outside the building, and played high-level football and came up with one of the more surprising wins this week so far in the National Football League. You have to love it because the entertainment and the parity is always there. But for Buffalo, I'm a bit concerned with Buffalo.
Yeah.
Because of what we saw last week and then doing what happened today. When you talk about having a team with Josh Allen, the championship aspirations, you win the game you're supposed to win. This was a winnable game. They allowed one to slip through their fingers, and now they created more separation between themselves and the New England Patriots, who we just talked about. And oh, by the way, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, even though you had a bye, you actually had a win. Yeah. Because you need chaos to happen, because they're currently sitting, outside of the top 7 in terms of the NFL playoff picture.
Jonathan, what broke down for Josh Allen in this offense? You saw the multiple turnovers, the red zone interception.
Well, that's it. That's it, because even though the Miami Dolphins were up 16-0, you still never felt like, oh, the Miami Dolphins are going to somehow win this game in the third quarter. And then the Buffalo Bills get down there into the red zone. And we're saying to ourselves as we're watching, like, okay, look, you can kick right here. It's okay. You don't have to score the touchdown. You can still just get the 3. Plenty of time left, about 20 or so minutes left in the game. That's 3 or so possessions for the Buffalo Bills. And then there is the interception. Then you get the tush push, and you get that continuation, right? The refs let it keep going. They didn't stop his forward progress.
I can't stand it.
They didn't stop his forward progress like they did for the Philadelphia Eagles against the New York Giants a couple weeks ago, right? And then it gets stripped there. So when you lose the ball at high leverage situations like that, when you have already dug yourself a hole, when you don't have the passing offense that you need, and that is why the Buffalo Bills was trying. They were trying to go out there and get a wide receiver before the trade deadline. We heard from GM Brandon Beane, who said, if you had told me at the start of the deadline that we would come away with no one, that would have been a big surprise to me. They tried, they couldn't do it, and now they know that for the second half of the season, this is the group they're going to have to go out there with, and their reigning MVP, he can't be turning the football over.
Well, we also saw Keon Coleman score a touchdown for just his 3rd of the season. I mean, that's who we've been asking for to step up. He gets a touchdown, makes a nice play at the goal line, and it's all for naught here because, Melvin, when you talk about what's ahead for Buffalo, they play Tampa Bay next week, then they're at Houston, then they're at Pittsburgh. We knew that this schedule was going to be somewhat of a gauntlet for Buffalo, but this is make or break time here for Josh Allen and the Bills.
Yeah, you have to win the games that you're supposed to win. If you know football, you know the division games are always going to be tough, regardless of the records. It just is what it is. They're going to play them tough. And like you mentioned earlier, the GM got fired, so everybody is auditioning. You got new faces coming in. The coach is going to give you his best. The players are going to give you their best, because with new hires come new faces. And people want to keep their jobs, so they're going to put their best foot forward, and I think that's what Miami did. And Buffalo kind of took that for granted, thought they was just going to come in and just, it's the Dolphins, we got this, and they hit them in the mouth.
And it was a big, big win for Miami.
Absolutely.
And a big win for Mike McDaniel, who, we've reported he is going to remain the head coach through the end of the season, at least, because owner Stephen Ross would love to keep this rolling with Mike McDaniel. What does he need to see? He needs to see more games like what we just saw Sunday, where they're doing it in all 3 phases. Of course, Tua Tagovailoa still turning the football over. He had 2 interceptions today to go along with his 2 touchdowns. But, Tua, because of his contract and because of the perception of his reputation around the league, even if Miami wants to move on from him, it's going to be extremely difficult for Miami to move on from him. And so his biggest advocate is the head coach, is Mike McDaniel. He played a good game, clean up the turnovers. We've seen more of them this season from Tua than we have ever before in his career. And they can hope that they're building towards something in 2026, a glimmer of hope.
Yeah, well, we saw him earlier in the season throw his teammates under the bus and calling them out. And now, well, he's riding the bus on the back of Tua and Achane, who had himself a game, right? 225 total yards, 2 touchdowns. As you take a look at the most career games with 200 scrimmage yards and 2 TDs in Dolphins history. These are great names in Dolphins history, and it's Tua and Achane and the Dolphins beating the Bills for the first time since 2022, snapping a 7-game losing streak to Buffalo.